What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about Operation Yellow Ribbon, which, from what I understand, was a Canadian response to the 9/11 terrorist attacks here in the United States. And that's pretty much all the details I know. Like most Americans alive at the time, during September 11th, it is absolutely burned into my memory. Like most people say, they remember exactly where they were and what they were doing on September 11th, 2001. Everyone kind of remembers that day, and that's absolutely true. What can you even say about this? Most deadly terrorist attack on American soil in history. 3,000 people dead. World Trade Centers destroyed, Pentagon hit, and a fourth airplane driven into the ground in a field in Pennsylvania by absolute heroes on board the plane that helped fight against the hijackers and actually managed to drive the plane into the ground. They thought they were probably targeting the Capitol or the White House. Devastating. Tragic, like, barely begins to describe this. And so I actually think it's a bit odd that this story isn't more well known. Operation Yellow Ribbon. Canada played a really important part in efforts to aid the United States during 9/11. I don't know exactly what that role was. I gotta be completely honest with you. I feel like maybe with the whole gravity of 9/11 and everything going on, there was so much going on. This particular story isn't as well known as I would like because I don't know it. So I really wanted to take some time here today to highlight this. I found there's a documentary about this, 9/11, Operation Yellow Ribbon. And this is actually a pretty long documentary, so this is definitely probably going to be multiple parts, but I think it's well worth it, well worth learning about. I'm actually quite excited to learn about what role Canada played in 9/11, which could be quite special to learn about. So let's start. Let's take a look.
We can never again look at the New York skyline without remembering that day, September 11th, when terrorists hijacked airliners loaded with passengers and jet fuel, flew them into the World Trade Center and killed 3,000 people, altering the lives of an untold number of others. Most of our attention that day, of course, was focused here in New York, but it was a story that reverberated around the world.
Man, this is heavy. This is like, a lot of Americans, like, it's been 22 years now. Over time, like, these details really, like, confronting the fact that this happened and the details. Like, a lot of Americans don't think about this on, like, a daily basis or anything. So, sitting down and actually, like, hearing about this all again and thinking about it is, it's a lot. It's emotional, for sure. I feel like after 9/11, as horrible as it was probably one of the times in history where Americans were most united than ever before. Maybe that's the only solitary, like, positive thing that came out of it. But yeah, let's continue.
And it had a special impact on a small Canadian town 1,000 miles north of here. A town that became a safe port in a storm of fear, terrorism, and uncertainty.
A town in Canada that became a safe port? I'm not exactly sure what this means. I am absolutely intrigued. Let's keep going.
The province of Newfoundland and Labrador, a former British colony that did not join Canada until 1949,
Newfoundland, Labrador,
has long been considered Canada's poorest.
Really?
It is largely populated by descendants of Scots and Irish, living simply in often harsh conditions.
I mean, this is teaching me stuff about Newfoundland and Labrador I didn't even know about, for sure.
Here, neighbors relying on neighbors is a necessity of everyday life.
Okay, it's a tight community.
Gander, population 10,000, is a small, two-stoplight town in the northeast corner of the island of Newfoundland.
Gander, Newfoundland.
Claude Elliott has been mayor of Gander since 1996.
We only have 500,000 people on a massive island. We've come through some difficult times, and most Newfoundlanders survive with hard work.
Yeah, he has the accent. Yeah, is that the Newfoundland accent? Like, it's almost kind of Irish in a way. Claude Elliott, he's the mayor. He's been mayor since '96. He was mayor during, like, 9/11 then.
Helping each other, and that's been passed on from generation to generation.
Nice.
The cold season can come quickly and severely in Newfoundland, but September...
What happened in Gander, Newfoundland, during 9/11? I am a bit confused about the setup to this, but I am absolutely intrigued.
September 11th, 2001 dawns warm and sunny, a typically bucolic day that will be anything but typical, as Gander is about to be thrust into the catastrophic events unfolding 1,000 miles to the southwest.
Gander is going to be thrown into this somehow, 1,000 miles away. This is so fascinating to me as an American. Like, we have our American point of view on this, you know, like being here, experiencing it. But, you know, I never stopped to think about, like, this was world news. Like, people all over the globe were aware of this, were watching this, thinking of this, looking on in horror as well. Which is honestly something, you know, I think a lot of Americans don't even stop and realize. And that actually, like, I appreciate actually, like, learning and acknowledging that in this little documentary. It's nice.
Its citizens to be challenged as never before.
Really?
September 11th, 2001 started as a normal day in Gander. While we were having coffee, someone said there was a plane that crashed in New York in one of the Twin Towers.
Yeah. We had complaints to speeding.
Yeah, I mean, this is bringing back so many memories. Like, people thought at first it was an accident, horrible, tragic accident. Plane accidentally flew into one of the Twin Towers. People didn't even know there was an attack going on at first. It was inconceivable to think that.
Airport Boulevard, it's the only 4-lane road that we have, and I was parked in front of the curling club. I had my car radio and I heard what was going on. And like a lot of people, I couldn't believe that this was happening. And I said, that can't be true. It just can't be.
Yeah.
It is such a pretty morning, isn't it?
Perfect fall morning.
There they are.
On that September morning, air traffic control veteran Ben Sliney is on his first day in his new position as FAA National Operations Manager.
No way. No way it is this guy's first day on the job. September 11th, 2001. Dang. That's bad luck.
An hour into the workday, there is an ominous development.
We were trying to locate American 11. It had shut off its transponder and dropped below radar coverage.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the book is called Hughes. We want to go live right now and show you a picture of the World Trade Center.
A plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City.
We saw what appeared to be a fireball at the top of the World Trade Center.
I've seen that clip before. A lot of these clips. It's wild how this was also like maybe one of the terrorist attacks that like it's like the modern day. There's video coverage of it happening. Video of it literally taking place. That's like bizarre to think about. Because there's been lots of wars and tragedies and terrorist attacks all over the world. But this was all covered live. There's footage of the planes hitting the towers. It's real disturbing, actually.
We had reports of another aircraft that had deviated from its course.
Oh, another one just hit. Something else just hit.
U.S. officials say it appears it was a third plane that hit the Pentagon.
I ordered a national ground stop, meaning that no other aircraft could take off. And whatever's necessary. Just get them stopped now. I don't want any more planes on their frequency taking off.
56 minutes after the North Tower is struck, an unprecedented decision has been made. Every non-military plane must land immediately.
Right. This, I mean, 9/11 changed so many things about the airline industry in the United States. How long it took you to check your bags and go through metal detectors and check your stuff, what you could bring on the plane. And certainly, at the time this was happening, I remember, all planes. Like, no one can fly. Every plane has to get out of the sky. Like, unprecedented. Unprecedented.
For the first time ever, American airspace is closed.
Oh, my God!
Disturbing on so many levels, obviously. Like, people dying and the towers collapsing, people having to jump out of the towers or choose to be burned alive. Like, you can't overstate, like, literally the grotesque, disgusting events that took place. You cannot overstate it.
This is war. This is a declaration and an execution of an attack on the United States.
The only way to really sort the situation out was to land everyone in our airspace.
The FAA now says that all international flights headed for the United States are being diverted to Canada.
Okay.
Diverted to Canada.
International flights. This is the kind of details, like, you know, there was so much to focus on during 9/11. So many stories, war happening. Like, who did this? Who are we gonna like get back at for this? Like, and a lot of emotions. So little details like this, like planes having to land. They're not allowed to land in the United States anymore. They're being diverted to Canada. Okay, that makes sense. Got it. Obviously, I mean, I should say, like, very gracious and like very, very beautiful. Canada, like, was helping, cooperating. Like, Canada was like, yeah, sure, land, use our airspace. Like, you don't have to do that, but you did. And it's amazing. So, yeah.
Every day, as transatlantic flights enter and leave North American airspace, they are managed here, the Area Control Center in Gander, Newfoundland.
Oh, now I'm starting to see the connection to Gander, Newfoundland. I was like, what does Gander, Newfoundland have to do with 9/11? Like, I just wasn't even seeing the connection there. This is very, very interesting.
Gander 1174 Center, good day. Clear to send to maintain 6,000 people.
On September 11th, when U.S. airspace is shut down, there are almost 400 planes carrying tens of thousands of passengers westbound over the Atlantic.
Right.
Around 200 are close enough to return to Europe. 167 more are too far across the ocean to turn back.
Oh.
When did you begin to be aware of what was about to happen in Gander? The flights that had been crossing the Atlantic more than halfway, many of them were going to be headed for Gander and St. John's and Halifax, but Gander would be the big magnet.
I knew.
Oh. Gander. So could they not reach other places? Well, Newfoundland and Gander and Halifax, they were landing in places that were like in the most eastern parts of Canada that you can get to and land. I'm sure they had like limited fuel and resources, and so Gander, Newfoundland, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, is dealing with like one of the craziest, most intense situations, airplane situations you could even imagine, in Gander, Newfoundland.
Knew that the Canadians were going to get an onslaught of traffic, and I suppose I hoped that they'd be able to handle that traffic.
60 north, 20 west.
How big is the airport? I don't know. This guy hopes they can handle it. How big is the the airport at Gander, Newfoundland. I don't know. They have like hundreds of airplanes need to land.
The responsibility of handling the traffic falls to a small team led by Don O'Brien, the supervisor on duty at the control center for NAV Canada, the Canadian version of the FAA.
Okay.
The arrival sector, we normally would have 3 controllers seated. We quickly went to 14. We train for emergencies. We train for bomb threats, but usually it's a single airplane or maybe a second one maybe, but not to this level. The activity was going on here.
Oh my God. I'm looking at their screen, like, I don't mean to laugh, but it's this crazy. Like hundreds of airplanes coming towards you. I love how this is like a documentary. They're interviewing the literal Canadians who actually did this on the day, like took part in this. That's fantastic getting to hear it from them.
Was another part of your mind thinking about what had happened in New York and the possibility that there were more terrorists out there?
I'm sure it went through the controllers' heads, it went through my head, but
right.
Sure, some of those airplanes could have been missiles. We didn't know how extensive this was, but that wasn't our call, really. We just had to get those airplanes on the ground safely.
That's terrifying. Terrifying. Again, like there's not just like selflessness here, but bravery as well. This is amazing. Like this story, we're not even even close to being done with this, but this is an amazing story so far. I had no idea. So they're trying to make space for airplanes that can't land in the United States. They're helping. They're like, okay, come land in Gander, Newfoundland, a couple other places as well. Some of these airplanes could have terrorists on them. You know, who knows, right? Who actually knows? In hindsight, you're like, oh, nah. But at the time, it's like madness going on, unprecedented events. Nothing sounds crazy. Like these planes could be loaded with who knows what. But they're just like, hey, we got a job to do. That's amazing.
One of the pilots approaching Newfoundland is Beverly Bass, the first female captain at a major airline. She's flying American Flight 49 from Paris to Dallas with 170 people on board.
From the controller's standpoint, they feared that another airplane was going to be taken down.
Right.
Some of the airplanes were given directions to turn around and go back to their departure city. So we're sitting there cruising westbound and looking out the window, and you can actually see them turn and make 180s and head back to Europe.
Newfoundland.
Wow, so I guess it just wasn't possible for every airplane. So these are actually, this is interesting. These are all airplanes coming from like Europe that were supposed to go to the United States. Then 9/11's happening. The U.S. is like, we can't have airplanes coming here. It's too crazy, too risky. And yeah, like Canada, Newfoundland, Gander, Newfoundland in particular here is like, yeah, we'll do it. And again, it's like America is saying we're not taking airplanes. They could be literal missiles. And these Canadians are like, we'll take it. That's amazing. Like, right there, if you think about it like that.
Is an island located off the eastern edge of North America.
Right.
The 167 planes approaching Canada all must land immediately. The vast majority at small airports around the island and in the nearby maritime provinces, all controlled in Gander.
I guess they were all told to, like, land as soon as possible. That's why they're all going towards, like, Newfoundland.
Over the next 7 hours, Gander Control and the surrounding airports will handle unprecedented traffic under extreme emergency conditions.
Ridiculous conditions.
We go to Toronto. Air India 113 Center, negative. You must now land at Gander. Turn right heading 320.
After turning right heading 320.
Flight paths must be recalculated in 3 dimensions, accounting for speed, direction, altitude.
That's right. Wait a minute. That's right. How do you calculate how to land like hundreds of airplanes in that short a window? You get nervous landing at the airport. It's like, okay, no other airplanes landing right now, right? Okay, we're good. God forbid, like, there's a collision or something, like, they calculate it so airplanes don't get close to each other, and that's not a concern. They have to, like, figure out how to land hundreds of airplanes in a short window of time, all in the same place. That's crazy.
Some planes are too heavy to land and must jettison fuel.
Oh.
The risk of collision is ever present.
Right.
This is an actual radar tape from that morning. Now you're starting to turn them toward Gander.
Yes, we got the word, of course, and we had to peel them all northward into Gander, St. John's, and Stephenville. Some of them knew there was activity going on in Kennedy, and there was a crisis in American airspace. Some of them didn't. We were telling them, look, you got to land. And they're saying, no, we're going on to Kennedy or Dallas or wherever. I said, no, you're not.
People flying the airplanes that don't even know what's going on, and they're having to say, like, no, you're landing. You don't get it. You're landing here in Gander, and you'll like it.
In the air, as they learn the shocking details, captains worry their own planes could be carrying hijackers, forcing many to hide the truth from their passengers.
Right.
Our captain came on the PA system and announced that we had a slight mechanical problem, something to do with an indicator signal or something like that. We were going to have to put down in Gander to have it repaired.
Whoa.
Shirley Brooks Jones is a retired fundraising administrator for Ohio State, returning home from Frankfurt, Germany, on board Delta Flight 15.
Once we got parked, the captain came back on the intercom, apologized to us for the ruse, and said actually the equipment was fine, but there was a national emergency in the United States.
Interesting. I mean, I swear, this is level of detail like I never knew, never heard about before. Like, planes landing in Canada, captains lying to the passengers to keep them calm. This is an amazing, like, I'm actually very, very happy. I'm glad, like, that I'm watching this, truly.
3 aircraft that we know of were commandeered. One was crashed into each of the World Trade Center towers in New York City, and another was crashed into the Pentagon outside Washington, D.C.
Apparently some type of what would appear to be maybe a terrorist activity or hijacking has occurred with airplanes which apparently have impacted the World Trade Center in New York City.
It's weird. It's weird watching people get the news. It's weird. Seeing people react to hearing about it for the first time. Because it was so insane at the time to hear about. I was pretty young, like, but even I understood. And there was a time, like at school, when we were kind of being made aware something was happening, but teachers weren't really allowed to explain it to us. You could just tell something bad was happening, and they were wanting to send us home. They were wanting to send us home and have parents explain what was going on, and everything was closing down. And as a kid, you don't really grasp it even completely. So that was a unique experience for me as well. These are like adults hearing it on the airline intercom, and they're immediately grasping the gravity of the situation. Whereas a kid, you're like, huh? Like, I don't, it's a little confusing, but it's wild.
On September 11th, 8 domestic flights are scheduled to land in Gander. Instead, 38 planes carrying almost 7,000 people are beginning to fill the tarmac.
38. 8 planes for the day, and it's already up to 38.
The spectacle has drawn a crowd from among the town's 10,000 citizens.
Oh my God.
Oz Fudge is one of just 2 officers on the local police force.
Look at that.
I watched the plane.
The airport is just full of planes. Full.
Come in. Then I seen a jumbo come in. And then I seen another one come in. And I'm looking at this and I'm saying, holy God.
Wow.
Just if there's 200 people on each one of these planes, and we're going to get 40 or 50 planes, that's an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
Less than 2 hours after American Flight 11 strikes the North Tower of the World Trade Center, the skies over the United States are empty.
Wow.
For the first time, American airspace is completely closed.
Crazy.
In Canada,
and that was only made possible by places like Gander, Newfoundland, Canada. That's amazing. That's awesome. Like, yeah. I do feel I'm glad to learn about this. I think more Americans should learn about this. I'm sure they're like at the time this was more of a story. It's been a while, so I feel like this story is like not as well known as it should be in America, and that's sad. That's sad.
Gander Area Control Center somehow lands all 167 planes without incident.
It was a sigh of relief. You wipe your brow, you thank God they all got in safely, and it was unbelievable to go from this horrific activity, and then the airspace is completely sterilized. Nobody there. No targets on the radar screen.
They got 167 planes in that airport somehow.
Here in New York, the sad task of the search for the survivors and the victims goes on and on. In New York, citizen volunteers are flooding toward Ground Zero as emergency workers search for survivors.
Yeah.
1,000 miles from the destruction, the 10,000 residents of the peaceful Canadian town of Gander, with virtually no time to prepare, must also respond with countless acts of generosity, providing...
Oh my God, right. There's like thousands of people landing in Gander, Newfoundland, and they need somewhere to live, to sleep, food to eat. I didn't even think about that. That's amazing. That's amazing. So this is the people of Gander like setting up like auditoriums with tables and amenities, and this is incredible.
Of the peaceful Canadian town of Gander, with virtually no time to prepare, must also respond with countless acts of generosity.
They got toothpaste,
providing food and shelter for thousands of frightened passengers.
Wow.
Strangers who have suddenly arrived at their door. Among the stranded, far from home, are the parents of a New York City fireman. Not knowing if their son is at Ground Zero, Hannah and Dennis O'Rourke fear they may never see him again.
Man, this is touching. This is touching. Seriously. Like, seeing this kind of acts of humanity, honestly. Like, in such a terrible moment in history, such a tragedy, like seeing this kind of goodwill from people, like it's special. It's special.
And within a matter of hours, this vast tarmac was filled with planes from around the world, parked wingtip to wingtip.
Right. That's the part I didn't even realize, how 9/11 affected so many people from around the world that were traveling on flights to the United States and diverted elsewhere. And now Gander is like trying to take care of thousands of random people around the world that are scared and without a home. And what an amazing story.
Canada is basically becoming a gigantic runway for every plane and aircraft that was destined for the United States today.
Right. Oh my gosh. And I think with that, I'm gonna stop right here for now. We're like almost halfway or a third through this, so I'm gonna have to chop this up into a couple parts. That's fine. I'm really quite enjoying learning about this story and highlighting this story of this event that took place in Canada. This inspiring event. Really during a horrible, tragic time. This is amazing to hear about. I'm really quite enjoying this, but if you're enjoying this as well, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment with your thoughts on Operation Yellow Ribbon and Canada's role in helping the United States during 9/11 so far. And if you're interested in part 2 of this, where I'll continue this, learning about this, or more videos like this, you know, me reacting to Canada and Canadian culture, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.